Welcome back to VFX and Chill with Hashi and Seth. I am the titular Seth, and with me...
and Seth has a Hashi. What's up, everybody?
Together we form an alliance too powerful to understand, known as VFX and Chill. And today we continue our journey through the Marvel Cinematic Universe with the... I'm just diving right in and saying what we're going to be doing. Is that all right?
Yes, we actually know this week what we were going to be doing because we discussed it earlier. Look at that.
Who knew? A little bit of prep. I know we promised no preparation whatsoever, but a little bit of prep. Today we're going to be looking at this screen that was supposed to already be playing from the Marvel Universe. Shang-Chi and the... How many rings? I've literally forgotten how many rings are involved.
5 golden rings. It's almost 5 golden rings.
5.
It's the Legend of the 10 Rings.
Legend of the 10 Rings.
Legend of the...
Oh, and with us today, as usual, is Michael, correcting all of our mistakes and giving us the actual facts and information. Hashi...
I will say this trailer dropped like slightly too late in the week last week before our show, but it had some great moments that just really jumped out just visually, which was nice because there's your standard effects, but like this had something kind of new to offer. I had never seen these types of things before.
Yeah, and
besides Avatar: The Last Airbender right there, but
there's some very Last Airbender stuff in here. But the thing, I'm still marveling. Well, here we are at how these trailers consistently get me stoked. Like these things, I've yet to see a Marvel trailer that doesn't feel surprisingly like fresh and new to me in a way. Like I always will hit play on these things expecting it to feel like just any other Marvel thing, and I'm like, by the time it's over, I'm like, well, I'm definitely seeing this one, and then I'm going to be bored with Marvel movies. But yeah, this one looks really, really awesome, and I know for the two of us, we got really excited about two specific shots. The first one was this rad thing you showed us at the beginning of the week last week, this week.
Oh yeah, that was the shot. I mean, I think that they do that grab your eyes trailer nowadays, where the first 2 seconds has to have something so it's scroll proof.
Yeah. And
so this was right away, and I was like, oh, I'm psyched for Sonic 2, and then realized this was not, in fact, a Marvel movie. So.
And then the other shot, the shot that I got excited about was this one, this Hogwarts showdown going on here between Shang-Chi and his dad. Lots of dad issues in the story, it seems.
Yes. His dad, I don't remember what his dad's name is now. It's
Bad Dad.
Bad Dad. He's no longer named insensitively after
I don't know this.
I will get my facts all wrong, but I believe that he was created as a comic that was the son of Fu Manchu, a character which Marvel did not own, and they changed the name at some point to be a little bit less that. And so, but also I heard that they also lost the rights to that character because they didn't own that character when they tied those universes together. Anyway.
Learning.
People nerdier than I am can correct that.
I'm just happy that in a Disney movie, a dad's alive for once.
Hey,
boom, Michael with the live dads. Well, but is the mom alive? Do we know that about Shang-Chi? Because really,
in the comics, she is, and she's like a silent force of good. I think like she knows what the dad was all about. Or whatever, like she's the one who breaks it to him that he's secretly a bad guy.
Secretly, okay.
Secretly a bad guy who owns organizations of.
Seems pretty overtly a bad guy in this trailer.
So,
well, I know nothing about the mythology or canon of this character. I just know this trailer looks really awesome, and these two shots seem pretty tailored for our.
They really do.
I'm looking forward to seeing what you guys do.
Michael, we're
I'm
looking forward to you telling
what
us a
we
better
are-
way to do it while we're doing it. All right, so Hashi, I'm going to dive right over to you and tell me. You want to start off, or how do you wanna do this?
Absolutely. Yeah, sure. That sounds great. Let me pull up this trailer. I'm pretty sure I've saved it somewhere. Excellent. So is my screen up? Lovely. Okay, so I think this moment is right away in here. So here's a cool shot of these rings right here. So let's see. There we go. So here we got these. Whoop. It's going to turn down my. Okay, this is the shot we're doing here. So what do we got? We got this like cool down shot of this guy wearing these, concentric bracelets around his, or not concentric, these bracelets on his arm right there. And then he casts his arm down and they fly out like that. It's really cool. So the first thing that I obviously know I'm going to need is one of these rings. And if you have ever watched any of my tutorials, you know that I am a phenomenal 3D modeler. And so for that task, I'm going to turn to Cinema 4D. I'm happy to get started right away if you want, Seth, or you can introduce what you're up to. Either way. Want me to keep running with it?
Yeah. Well, I'll jump into mine real quick. Let's see. So I have this plate here that I shot. I actually went ahead and did a couple things to try and save us time today. Well, first off, I cloned myself. Second off, I did some yoga and weird pantomiming exercises in my garage. One thing I didn't do was clean my garage. Sorry for that.
It's called production design.
That is production design. You see, I want to show off right here.
And I drank that with my right hand like an idiot. There we go.
People know the URL. You got to give them. Yeah, totally. So I've got this little table down here that my daughter built down the bottom left, showing off her woodworking.
The child labor put to work on your short films.
Yeah. So a couple things I went ahead and did ahead of time. I got the tracking out of the way so I wouldn't have to do it live. Just stuff that's been taking up, time on episodes. So as you can see, I tracked my hands. So and I gave null objects to each of them. So I've got I've got a guy on the right I've labeled good, and the guy on the left I've labeled bad, because that's how it looks in the original shot. And then I've got this middle. So these are tracked.
I mean, I'm a big fan of the production design for the set, but I'm not a big fan of the wardrobe design, giving them no differentiation between the characters.
See, in my universe, I can't think of anything funny. In my universe, you have 15 minutes to shoot a plate before a meeting, and that's exactly what I did here. But very fair point. So I've got good hands tracked, and I've got a middle ring here, a null in the middle to represent the middle area, and I gave it a little bit of a bounce. And I keyframe that because I wanted it just to be a constant thing, as I'm going to be duplicating this ring throughout the place, and I didn't want to deal with any weird wiggle parameter stuff happening, or wiggle, expression stuff happening without a seed.
Seth,
without a seed.
A question from the chat is, what did you use to track?
Oh, great question. I just used After Effects' tracker, just track motion. And because it's it's a 2-second shot, anytime it lost the hand, it was really easy. I just went frame by frame if it messed up at all. Although a trick I love to do is use After Effects spot clone tracker. I'm not After Effects, Red Giant VFX spot clone tracker. It has a really, really great built-in tracker, and you can just copy the keyframes and paste them onto a null object, which I'll do a lot.
It is really wonderful. Plus, it's tracking not just a small array of pixels. It's tracking a little section of the film. I mean, I know that the tracker does that as well, but or can do that as well, but not as fast.
Absolutely. So then I also prepped some Roto in case I needed it.
Oh man, look, Roto. I'm sorry you're all going to be deprived of live Roto from Seth this week at least.
Yeah. So what I'm going to do is, what I'm actually going to do next, I'll tell you what I'm going to do, and then I'll do it. Well, no, we'll come back to me. Let's go over to you, Hashi, and see what you're going to do next. Here we go.
All right. So I was quickly studying the plate. I shot something like literally right before we sat down to film, and I realized I didn't remember the shot correctly. So I'm going to reshoot my plate. But in the meantime, we need an actual ring for me to do this with. So I'm going into Cinema 4D. I'm going to create a tube, probably not make it too tall, something like that. Let's see, widen it out. Let's take a peek at the reference again. So all right, so these rings are ring sized. I'm not going to get too crazy into
Ring size.
what
they're
these
like,
look like, but well, yeah, I
just
guess
realized
not
I
ring
looked down, I didn't
size.
have a wedding ring. It's because I put it in my pocket because my rings are fat.
Yeah,
This
if you grew
seems pretty
growing
small.
up where I did, we all had, oh, ooh, it gets into nice focus right there. So here's a good reference for it. So it looks like it's got it's a ring. It's got an outer edge. It's got kind of this inner filigree, bottom filigree, probably filigree on both sides, and a glowing.
It's letterboxed.
core.
It's got a letterboxed frame. Yeah.
It's very nice. So I'm going to do an approximation of that using this thing. So I'll use the simple controls for this tube object. I'm going to dive into its properties. I'm sorry, apologize, these are a little small on screen probably. But for the object, I'm going to increase the number of segments to just I'll try 64.
Disconnected from Hashi Supercomp.
Oh no, my Alexa's been disconnected. All right, let's see. Let's make this ring.
No.
Would you say about that? That looks reasonable to me. Let me take a peek. Yeah, it's about that big. It's got a little like kind of little. Is this really fillet or is it filleted edge?
Filleted edge. We're gonna say filleted.
Fillet.
I say fillets for the fish and fillet is for the sculpting. But
Yeah, I think that I don't know if I'd said it out loud before. So I'm just adding a 1 centimeter one right here. And then before I convert this, I'm going to convert it to polys so I can delete rings out of this. But before that, I'm going to maybe add several cap segments. So I have some options and several height segments. So I have a couple of options as well. So I'm going to do that. Then I'm going to press C to make this an editable polygon object. And then I'll go to my polygon selection tool. And here we go. I'll start deleting bits of this ring. So I'm going to try, what is it? Is it UB for ring selection? Yeah, there we go. So ring selection, shift that will delete both of those rings. And let's take a quick peek at it. It looks like it's got mostly the inner favoring this thick outer kind of thing. So I'm going to say maybe, let's select some more. Let's select this. Oops, I forgot to press shift.
Womp womp.
Shift. Is that enough? Maybe one more. I feel like it goes in pretty deep. So I'm literally just going to delete these polys from it. Oh, and from the bottom, right? So, no, let's delete those for right now. And then we'll delete some of these.
While you do that, I'm going to hop over real quick over to here and get my comp started. So I'm going to, without any layers selected.
Seth, real quick, we have a couple of questions about your stuff.
Yeah.
Harry Frank asks, is the middle null averaged via expressions or is it just manually keyframed?
I manually keyframed it because I'm going to be duplicating it and using it across compositions, and I just didn't feel like remembering how to do a wiggle expression with a seed, because usually a wiggle expression uses the the layer index. So
yes. And then Joel Pitrell asks, any tricks to make sure your two takes are in sync while you're shooting?
No, not at all. I just shot a bunch of different versions on each side and then grabbed the ones that where I looked the least weird, believe it or not, and that matched up the best. Great questions.
Turned out good. It looks good, and
Doesn't it? It looks
yeah.
so good. So, all right, I'm going to do something that I never thought I would do before. I'm going to, with no layers selected, I'm going to create a shape layer. I'm going to
No, Seth.
I'm going to draw a mask. So I'm going to go basically 3 points. I'm going to draw 2 paths with 3 points. So 1 at one hand, 2 around the point where the middle ring is going to be, and then I'll do the other one at this other hand. And now it automatically drew this like fill layer for me and such. I'm going to go down here into contents and shape, and I'm going to go ahead and select the fill and delete it, so there's no fill going on. And stroke, let's leave it at 2 actually. So you can see I now have this path here. Now I'm going to select that shape layer and draw my second path on top of it. And so now I have 2, and I'm actually going to go here and see it created a second shape. And I'm going to go into that shape, select the path, and I'm going to drag that path down here into shape 1 so it keeps its same, and delete shape 2. So now both the paths are in that shape. And then I'm going to do a very fun thing. Select both paths, and I'm going to go to Window. Oh, you can't see this the way that I've done this. The way that I'm doing After Effects today. If I go to, actually, I'll just do this. Hang on a second.
You need a second, you can throw back to me either way. You got it?
Yeah, let me come back to you real quick, and I'll do the other thing.
Sure. So the only additional step I've done here is I've selected all the polygons here, and then using the extrude tool, I'm just going to click this face right here and drag out like this, so I can basically turn all of these objects into extruded metal like that. So I've got that going for me. The normals are a little weird, but I think that
Hashi, as far as sizing
eventually
goes, Joel Pitchell suggests bringing a human model from the content browser or the asset browser now that you're in S24 into your scene to get the correct sizing. But you could even bring in the human primitive from the cube drop-down menu to get accurate human sizing if you were after
that's
accurate
wild
human sizing.
In this case, I'm solely after this ring. If I were equipping a CG character with it, that is a phenomenal idea.
Or if you're using physically based lighting scene and you need the fall off to be correct, etc. So some people are focused on perfection, other people are focused on getting it done by a deadline, and you're just getting the ring right to itself because you're going to be slapping it in a scene with a real person.
Exactly. I'm just smushing a ring together out of some stuff. So there's all this really cool filigree on the rings, as you can kind of see here. And I have a really stupid idea for this, which is something that I love to do, which is I'm going to create a text layer here, and I'm going to lay out
Wingdings.
Some Wingdings.
Oh my god.
The legend of the 10 Wingdings. Who thought we'd be seeing Wingdings today, everyone?
I wish that was really what was on the ring.
Now, let's see. So the reason I like grabbing a font like this is because I'm going to use text as my ring layers. So I'm just going to go through and in After Effects, it's easier to see in here, just delete everything, delete all the boring-y shapes, but I'm going to leave for myself any of the kind of more interesting ones. Like
can you leave just one mailbox or CP or printer for me?
What was that?
Leave just one mailbox or printer.
One mailbox.
Just for
okay,
me.
I'll leave the mailbox in there. So you can see I'm trying to delete anything that doesn't have, there's probably a correct phrase for these. I don't know if they're Greek-ish characters. We got the ampersand in there, but they all have a bit of a uniform thing for me. So once I've done that, now I'll know from my layer number that this is basically, it's almost like spelling the word 8, actually. So I'm going to copy that text into here, into Cinema. where I'll create a text layer, and then let's go ahead and
Text.
paste that in here. So this is what that says. This. So, but we're going to obviously use Wingdings because it's just
Obviously.
the tops.
The chat is enjoying Wingdings, by the way.
Wingdings.
How could they
look
not?
At this. This is beautiful, and the mailbox is just wonderful.
I want
So
that
I'll leave
mailbox
the one.
front and center.
All right. So the mailbox, I'll leave in its own thing. Mailbox is comma, by the way. So,
Darby is excited that there are astrological signs in that connection. I see, I think Virgo and a few others.
Oh,
And
that's
mailbox.
exciting. All right. So I'm just making a big old
Mailbox
string
is my
of
astrological sign.
letters. Yeah, I don't know enough information about signs, to be honest, but I do know about.
Oh, I know
letter
so
spacing.
much. I'm so qualified to talk about astrological
What are
signs.
you, Seth?
That's like Taurus qualifies, right? That's what we're talking about here.
Taurus.
We're talking about like
I'm actually-
Taurus, Sagittarius. Is that what we're talking about? Yeah.
Taurus polygon oil.
Yes, that's
tank.
right. Yes, I am.
Um,
I'm of the polygon. No, I'm a
you know what you
Taurus,
signed
I'm
up
a
for,
bull.
folks. So you can see that I've just
Astrological signs,
reduced
either the
my.
torus or the rhombus or the.
Yeah.
I've really messed with the kerning of this text, so it all kind of overlaps like this. And what you get is sort of this, pretty weird thing. I think that it's just a design. I don't think that they are readable characters, as far as I can tell. I mean, I am not.
So you're saying
But-
none of them are mailboxes?
It's
Or
kind
we
of this,
don't know.
like looks like a mokumagame kind of thing. But I'm going to put some spaces around my mailbox, as you should always have, several feet between your mailbox and the. There we go. Let's see. Is that too much? Is that too much? Let's see. There we go. I'm going to
You did,
share
like,
this model.
Spotlight that mailbox pretty hard.
Yeah, I'm going to share this model with you all afterward. All right, and then I think once I have something like this, ginormous text. First, I'll scale this down a bit. Yeah. Why am I not? There we go. Okay, so I'll do that, and then I will drop. Let's see. We could just drop a wrap object inside of the text, right? Look at that. One ring to rule them all. Let's see. So I want the start of this wrap to go all the way to here, create a full circle, and let those overlap a little bit in the corners there. And then, yeah, you know what? I'm going to create do a current state to object so I can get a little copy of this that's baked out and hide my wrapped model for a second. And then with this one that's been converted to some geometry, I'm going to mess with that a little bit. Oh, why is it so... it made it into many objects. I don't want many objects. What if I just convert the wrap into an object? Does that work? Current state to object?
It did work.
Wait, no. I guess I could just connect them all. That's silly, though. I thought this would work. Anyway, you know what? I'll just create a copy of it. So I'll do one copy like this, and then this other copy, let me hide the wrap for a second, and then I'll rotate this object flat to 90 degrees, and then turn the wrap back on. And now we have so I've made two objects. Let me see if I can separate them a little bit. So we got, oops, I'm moving the wrap object, aren't I?
I'm moving the
Okay,
wrap.
so there we go. So we've got this like top filigree, this side filigree thing. Let's focus on the side filigree real quick. So I'll hide this one, then look at this thing. Let's go ahead and make it editable. And then
Edible? Make it edible, you say?
Edible. I'm going to throw these all in a connect object. In fact, I'm going to probably, let me do that for the other one while I'm in here. So I'll throw this into a connect object, and then I'll say make editable, And then I just have one thing here that I'll call this the sides. And then I'll throw my other text into this connect object here. And then I think if I say make or current or make editable, maybe. Yeah, I got another piece of geometry there. Oh, wait, I don't know if those are the properties I want yet. So I'm going to wait on that one. So let's take these sides here. Let's align them with this ring. So let's go to our axis center window. Oh, which is docked right here. I'll press execute to put this in the center of the points, right? Oh. Right, sides. Center to all points. This is why it's so fun to watch me use.
Well,
why does that not work?
I keep thinking I'll be like, oh, you know, while he's doing this, I'll move over here. But it's like, but then you do one more thing that's incredibly pivotal and important.
I'm not going to do anything pivotal or important. I'm just going to align and scale. Oh, it did move the point center. I had a point selected. So let's scale this down. Let's go to its properties so I can center it up correctly. And if you do have something exciting to show, feel free to jump over.
I wouldn't call it exciting, but stops talking. I wouldn't call it exciting. Dies. So let me see if I can do this the right way this time. So with my path selected, I'm going to go up here to window. Can you guys see that? Or is Zoom just not sharing it with you?
Let's see. We're not seeing any windows other than your
Zoom or whatever. It's not sharing it correctly. So here's what I'm doing. I'm going up to window and I'm going to a thing called create nulls from paths. And when I do that, you know what? I got to figure this crap out. I'm going to come back over to you, Hashi, because people need to be able to see what it is that I'm doing.
Check it out. So back over here, we have got a lovely mailbox right there. See, we can do some awesome Game of Thrones style close-ups of a ring now. So we've got all the filigree on the side there like that. And let's go ahead and throw in the filigree for the top. Let's turn it back on. And let's see, I might as well go to a top view here. All right, let's see about how big we want to make this thing. So the wrap object right now is about, just make it all smaller. Can we do that? Yeah. All right, we'll try to get this lined up nicely on the top here. My Zoom controls keep opening up anytime I try to go to my top menu. All right, so we're close on this thing. Let's scale it down a little bit more. Yeah, right around, you know what? That's actually pretty good. Let me check it in the perspective view if it were down here. So we're just taking that text that's extruded and with the wrap object on it and literally wrapping it, like just trying to place it gently. I feel like they're almost the same surface, to be honest.
It is very important when you're modeling in 3D to be gentle with your polygons.
Yes, I mean, otherwise, you know, they're, you know, messing up a normal can have a lasting impact on
well, you want them to have a nice, easy upbringing so that they can stay normal.
Ooh. But what's normal?
That was a groan from me. That wasn't actually a
What is normal? I don't want to be told.
I was about to bring you into the picture, Michael, but then you said that, so I think I'm just gonna let you sit and think about what you've done. Speaking of thinking about what you've done, which is really not an applicable segue whatsoever.
Speaking of words,
I really think you're not going to be able to see this, but I click window. Dang it, stupid OBS. So anyway, I'll tell you what I'm doing. I'm going up to window, and I go down to create nulls from paths. This is with my path selected, and then a little window pops up that should appear. I'm going to dock this window so you can see it. Now you see there's this little window. I'll put it actually
Pixar didn't happen.
And it says create nulls from paths, and I'm going to have the points follow nulls. And when I click that, it creates these new null objects that my path will now follow. So if I select this middle null here, you'll see that it's now affecting that mask point. Super, super useful. So what I want to do is, first I'm going to make sure that these middle ones line up with my middle null as best I can. And then I'm going to parent them, each of these nulls, to their applicable null. So this one up here I know will go to bad hand 1. This one will parent to middle null, and bad hand 1, which is the best of the bad hand trilogy. Middle ring. Then we'll go to this one will parent to good hand 2, which is superior to good hand 1. And this one will go to bad hand 2.
Now, are these in the Cool Hand Luke universe, or am I thinking something else?
No, they are, but we abbreviated them just to bad hand and good hand 1.
Now,
So,
of course.
Yeah. Good hand 1. Let me see if I paired these up correctly. So now you'll see I'm doing this like Spider-Man web thing. So now we're stretching out this mask so well. So what I want to do is I actually want to have, in the reference, it looked like there were, let me pop over to the reference and check it out real quick. It looks like there are, more than one strings here. I can't really zoom in there, but like in what they're doing. So I'm just going to create a few more strings here. I'm going to do that by duplicating the shape layer once, and I'm gonna drop a turbulent displace onto it. And I'm gonna turn the size. I think let's turn the amount down a whole bunch. I'm going to turn off view layer control, show layer control, so you can see just the masks here. In fact, let me zoom in so you can see the extent of what I'm doing. So I've got, with this turbulence field on and the amount turned down pretty low, something like 9, it now appears to be 2 masks, 2 strings each, or 4 technically, and I'm going to duplicate shape layer again, and I'll go to evolution options in that one on Turbulent Displace and just change the evolution.
That's so wild how much that looks like the physics of that move. Like that's just...
Yeah, right?
Look
I
at that.
also should mention that for the mask, I have Roto Bezier turned on, which automatically creates a really nice fluid Bezier that I don't have to adjust manually. And that is where you have this guy right here clicked up here at the top, this little check mark. I guess my cursor isn't even showing up. That's so weird. Anyway, so now that I've got these guys, I'm actually going to do one more thing, and then we'll pass it back over to you, Hash. But I'm going to take these shape layers, and I'm going to select them, and I'm also going to select all the shape layer nulls. And you know what? I'm actually going to select all my null objects, too. So bad hand 2, bad 1, middle ring, good hand, blah, blah, blah. All this, and all the shape layers and all the shape layer paths. And I'm going to pre-comp them, Command-Shift-C, and I'm going to call them strings, because I do need strings to hold me down. And before I do anything else, I'm going to go in here.
It's obviously another Avengers reference, right?
Yes, definitely.
From when the
Ultron
robot
classically referenced Pinocchio constantly. We're going to copy this middle ring null and bring it in here into our main comp because we will need that information. So before I go any further, why don't I hop over and see how those rings are doing? How are they going?
So they're going well. I am just in the process of taking a peek at my mesh itself and kind of reversing the normals on a couple of these pieces so they show up a little bit better. And then I've got, let me just reveal everything that we have made already. We've made the top, the bottom, and then I've added this tube shape here. Just one more tube that fits just inside of all of this. And I'm going to drag it up here for ease. I'm leaving this lower poly because I don't really need all that. And I'll make this blue, kind of light blue color for now as this kind of stand-in. But then the top and bottom, I would like to go to the polys and select, let's see what, UB40, there we go. I want to select the top polys and these bottom ones. All right, so we got the top and the bottom selected. And now if I drag over this kind of dark color like that, then it'll get a polygon tag, and the top of this ring will be this brass color, the side will be this blue color, and then I can move my object right back into here. And then I think I feel really good about this being
Yeah, that's so satisfying.
looking enough like it. And we've got the cool bonus Easter egg that we will know about, but people won't know in motion of
I hope they
our
know that
mailboxes.
version.
I was going to offset these all so it would be a little bit more varied, but I kind of
I
like
the
that there's
mailbox
just
thing right
this
there.
really
Someone in the
distinct.
chat mentioned that it could be it's an email button. It's actually really handy to yeah, the developers were really smart in including that feature in this smart ring.
So clever. Well, they could, I don't know, can these guys see through? No, I'm thinking of what are the new Marvel people who can see everything? Are they Immortals, or am I thinking of another show?
Well, they can see, a lot of them can see all things. You've got the Timekeepers, you've got, I think, the Immortals, right? I don't know the rules about
What's the new
Immortals.
show? What's the one with like the all-star cast?
The new movie, that's
the one.
Immortals with Kumail
Immortals.
and Angelina.
Cool. I wasn't totally off. All right.
That one looks too good, like a little too good.
It's wild.
Any of my Marvel
Okay,
movies,
so
pretty good, like really good, but not that good. All right, sorry. Keep teaching people.
all right, let's see. Let's save. All right, so we've got our object saved, and then
How
I'm
are you
going
planning to
to
render this?
dive.
Are you doing Cinema 4D Light or not Light?
Well,
what do you call
now
it?
there
No
are many
spoilers.
ways that you can render out these rings, but I am going to go with an option that I know the best. Let's see.
I
Here's
love
my
that
plate.
That plate's pretty great, man.
So this plate is the like I turned on my camera on the toilet angle, and
Not a great day to go with shorts, though. I would say. I mean, I don't think we.
that's yeah. We're gonna be careful with the scrubbing here. I mean, I think my lighting is pretty dark here. I was trying to frame for
Oh
imagining.
my gosh,
rings
Hashi,
coming off in this
the chat's
diagonal
going crazy.
direction.
By the way, it's the Eternals, not the Immortals. Did we say Immortals?
See,
Show's over,
same-
guys. That's
same
it.
thing. Same
Never
thing.
doing it again. Eternals.
There goes our Marvel check, Seth. We've been
We
at
were
it
so
for
credible up
weeks.
till that point.
Okay. Now, one thing I noticed just a moment ago that I thought was kind of funny is in this moment, we've got these rings, and I don't know if it's a perspective thing, if they retain their size once they are off his arm, or if they grow to be equal sized, or whatever they do. Because in theory, this would mean the smallest bracelet is the farthest forward, and you're fighting perspective, which is funny because they get bigger as they go back. But also right here in this first moment, he's got them on his arm, and then as he puts them out, they just clip straight through his.
They totally do.
He's got his finger right there, and the rings are too small to have fit on his wrist, and so
okay,
if you go frame by frame, they just
do you want to
they
take
just
bets on
start-
if it'll look like that in the final, in the film? That feels like
they're
a
gonna
trailer
fix-
thing.
they're going to fix that in the final because of this show, and everyone
Yes,
will
because
know
of
that
us and our audience, our powerful
they watched it.
audience.
Continuing the trend of Marvel material learned from Seth Worley properties. Let's see.
That's an
inside
inside reference.
I don't know.
That maybe
Not
if I have
even
time to
inside.
find the clip, I can
inside that
pull it
you've
up.
made public before.
Yeah. Immortals is a movie though, like a bad one.
It is.
The chat has been pointing that out as well.
Okay, so pointed out that we knew a bad movie before we knew.
Thank you, Brian, and everyone who commented on that. I hope that like if I died right now and someone found this comp, they would think I was.
They would think they would know how you died. Like
They'd be like, oh,
This is where his treasure's hidden.
All
In
right.
the
So
mailbox.
I could reshoot a play, but you know what? I'm just gonna go with this one.
No, why would you want to? I don't understand.
Why would I want to reshoot? Okay, let's see. We got.
Oh, the angle of your hand, is that why?
Well, like I didn't remember. I knew it was a down shot, kind of. I don't have a great.
You're gonna scale it
You know
anyway.
what?
Just scale it up. I think you can make that work. You'll have to.
Yeah, I
roto,
think
but-
we can. That's fine. All right, so let's scoot this back a little bit to right around here.
What are you going to be
Again,
rotoing
and
and,
then-
keying right now?
Yeah, I'm going to be doing that. So
All
go
right,
ahead
I'm
and
gonna move over to my garbage. So with these mask compaths here, and we've got these strings here, I'm gonna do some colorization. And this little trick here, I'm gonna apply gradient ramp onto.
now, is that regular gradient ramp or is that the universe?
I'm going
gradient
with
ramp?
regular because I don't need the bells and whistles of the universe one, which I normally use the universe one, but this one I just need it super simple. And I'm going to be doing a lot of very inefficient like stuff here, so I'm going to just try to use as simple a tools as I can throughout.
Yeah,
But Universe
going
Gradient
for
Ramp is a
speed, not
fantastic.
accuracy, everyone.
Universe Gradient Ramp is a fantastic plugin, by the way. That like very, very useful ramp that I would use usually over this one. So real quick, I'm going to make sure that my position of my middle ring is visible down here. And on this gradient ramp, I'm going to do a little bit of expression work here. First, I'm going to alt-click the start of ramp, so it shows up here and allows me to type an expression. I'm going to start by I'm going to start by typing X ring equals, and then Y ring equals. So on X ring equals, I'm going to pick whip this middle ring position, and I'm going to put in brackets 0, so it's only referencing the Y value of that position. And if I were to type the 1, it would be the X. The 0 is the X position, and the 1 is the Y position. And if it were 3D, the 2 would be the Z position. So I want to only reference right here I'm going to say X ring equals the middle ring's position X value minus, let's do -2.
And did you see how I restrained myself through an exposition joke right there? It was difficult, but I did.
Oh, wow. I kept talking. It's mainly so I wouldn't be correct. I'm also afraid that we're going to you're doing something way more interesting than I am. So I think I'm talking much faster so that I'll keep myself from feeling like I need to move over to you. Like I'm clearly doing something like like you do when you're talking in conversation with anyone, you just don't stop talking so no one will interrupt you. Everyone else does that, right? That's not just me.
Exactly.
Great.
Talk, fill in all the pauses because other people might feel awkward having to speak.
Content aware, fill in all the pauses.
Look at this.
Oh man,
Michael,
See,
you were just almost out of the corner. Why? So,
honey, you're just not being very content aware right now.
So who was that? Well, that was Content Aware Phil's wife. Content Aware.
I think that he works with Roto Brush too, who's awesome, but I think that he made things
That's his
awkward with
work
her.
wife.
But
I think Roto Brush
Yeah,
2 is
she-
his work wife. So Y ring, which by the way I did see my my typo down there. Y ring equals. I'm going to pick whip and do the 1 for that position, but I'm not going to do any math to that. So it's going to put the black part of the ramp right to the left of our middle ring, and it's going. And I'm going to real quick actually just finish this off in brackets. Do X ring comma Y ring, and now it automatically puts so if I just turn on the strings, so you see the strings, I'm gonna, let's hit the timer here, Alt for end of ramp, and I'm gonna copy all this here, paste it, but I'm gonna change this to be +2 instead of -2. So now, and if I go up here, I'm going to change the coloring. So the left one is blue-ish.
And as I watch you do this, I'm just thinking like how useful creating a path like this would be if you were doing like a Spider-Man effect or anything like that. It feels like you
Right.
have a lot of very few controls, which is in my book good
Yeah.
control.
Yeah. Few controls are good controls. So that's grammatically weird. So now I've got this automatically colorized thing going on. So no matter where they are, they'll always be on this side of the middle ring. On the left side of the middle ring will be blue. The right side of the middle ring will be orange. So that is helpful going forward. Next, I'm going to start creating a whole bunch of noise and distortions. And how you doing over there, Hashi? Still roto brushing?
Just roto brushing over here. Nothing exciting, Seth. But
Let's-
I do appreciate that good and bad guys always pick, nicely complementary colors.
They do.
One thing I'm using here that I don't remember if I've talked about on the show is the Refine Edge brush or tool, which is really wonderful because what it does is you can paint over an area and it converts this area kind of to a black and white preview of the alpha. So if you have something feathery like my annoying hair in front of a popcorn ceiling, which is just a terrible combination, it actually tries to contrast guess what a feathered version of the edge is, which is kind of neat. But
nice.
back to rotoing.
Back to rotoing. Or back to whatever I'm doing. So next, I'm going to start creating a whole bunch of crazy magic styles for these. And now, so I'm going to start by duplicating strings. I'm going to turn off this first strings layer. I'm going to call this one, let's do strings good. So strings good. First thing I'm going to do is I'm going to isolate the good side of the strings. And an easy way to do that is to change the ramp color, the first ramp color, the bad side, change it to black, and then apply an unmult. And so now I only see the orange side
Nice.
of the mask. So next I'm going to apply, as usual, because this is the Ecto show here, I'm going to apply Universe Ecto, which, always looks really cool right out of the box. And
Hey, look at that. You could post that to your YouTube VFX channel right now.
I will. And
It would. Whirly
that
and
will
the
be
two
rest of the show.
strings.
So I'm going to choose a preset, and it took me a while to realize what was going on here. It turns out the Universe dashboard, I had it over here in this window. I'm going to dock it right here so we can...
Wait, the dashboard is dockable?
Yeah, dashboard's dockable.
Why have
man.
I never docked it?
Because you didn't have a
Man.
tutorial that showed you that, or you didn't watch any of the tutorials. Any of the mini tutorials that are good for you, that Frank has
or the
made.
emails or the
So if I choose a preset, I actually want to go with the one called Heat Haze, which was my nickname in high school. So I like that. I like the tiny. I love the tiny distortions that are going on, which was my band in high school, Tiny Distortions, and the haze that's going on around it. And I'm going to real quick crank up glow color from source right here in Ecto. So now it's glowing the color of that. So that is strings good. And then I want to create one called strings good particles. So I'm going to go ahead and just duplicate strings good, call it strings good particles, which is actually, nope, didn't have anything for it. Sorry, couldn't think of anything. It's
my prom theme at high school. I have no.
Okay, so
No.
it just
You
smoke
had to go
starts
back to the
coming
high
out,
school
and we
well.
took the technical difficulties.
Oh.
So, Universe.
No.
Oh yeah. Who said
Oh, I
that?
was just going to say, Joel in the chat was asking about the Refine Edge tool with Roto Brush and how you can avoid flickering when using Refine Edges.
Mhm.
And to that, I would say that I have had flickering experience with it before. Right now, I'm in the middle of freezing this Roto Brush because
Freeze.
it's already done. But usually what I do is it needs a little bit more hand holding if you want to avoid flickering. The reduced chatter, I believe, is trying to affect it. And I believe there are some other controls within Refine Edge. The biggest thing is that you make sure that it doesn't start to expand to areas beyond the radius of your original brush, because that's sort of when it's auto balancing between full alpha and low alpha starts to go out the window a little bit. That's
I
if
made
that
a
made
note
any
that we
sense.
need a freeze drop. We need a drop of Schwarzenegger saying freeze whenever any of us
Yes.
freezes a Roto Brush. saying it out loud so the people will hold us to it. So I'm going to, on this strings good particles, I'm going to get rid of Ecto real quick. Well, I might use it later, actually. So I'm just going to turn it off for now.
Strings Good Particles sounds like a cool show that like I have never heard of, and I don't know what people are talking about when they talk about it. And they'll be like, "Oh yeah, it's on."
Yeah, like who named
Comedy
it that?
Central.
It's such a weird title that it's probably great. It also sounds like a descriptive of like if you're selling a dog, like Strings Good Particles. Like I don't know,
He does.
selling a dog if that's where you do that. It was a strange reference. So I am going to, in these particles, I'm going to keep ramp, so gradient ramp, my Unmult, and then I'm going to apply this little, I could use particular here and use the layer, the mask, excuse me, the masks and the layers as a layer emitter. But actually, I'm trying to keep things simple today I'm trying to keep my layer stuff simple while I overcomplicate my comp. So I'm going to drop scatter between Unmult and Ecto, which I do have Ecto turned off. And I'm going to turn scatter up to like above 100, maybe 120 something.
Ooh.
Let me zoom in so people can see
I love
what's
a
going on.
good bunch of scattered particles.
So,
Or
I
scattered
turn that down.
pixels.
Yeah. Turn that up to like 125, let's say. And then I'm going to have the grain only be vertical. So then I am going to turn Ecto back on. And that is pretty cool. If I combine it with Strings Good,
Oh, wow.
now I've got this really cool thing going on. If I hit play, it looks a little something like this.
God, that's gorgeous.
So now I've got to create my bad strings. So
Ooh.
I'm going to turn off my Strings Good and Strings Good particles, duplicate my strings layer, and call it Strings Bad. And I'm going to, for Strings Bad, I'm going to keep this ramp, but I'm going to turn off like I did before. I'm going to turn the good side dark and apply a Universe Unmult. I don't want any more mult. I want the mult gone. And
No more molting.
no more molting. So now it looks a little something like this, right? All right, so after that, I'm going to apply on Strings Bad. Now, on Strings Bad, I noticed, if I go over here to the reference, his is a lot more nonsense, like a lot more jazzy jazz business going on, and less.
It's the Kylo of the two, Kylo blade of the two, you know.
And it's much less discernible lines and a lot more turbulence and such going on. So I'm going to go ahead and just outright I'm going to jack up these lines very fast. And it's
cool production design that they went with, that the good guy isn't the blue leaning colors.
He's warm. I thought about this a lot because, you know, like if you think about it, you know, Star Wars set the tone for the, you know, cool colors are the good guys and the hot colors are the bad guys. But if you think about it, like warm versus cool, like that emotionally seems to be much more like of an intuitive thing to go with for good guys and bad guys. So, and I'm sure it's elsewhere and everywhere that I'm not thinking of. Like, well, I mean, in production design, you know, the Empire, maybe that's what it is. It's like in the Empire, like in much more cool designs for the Empire's production design and sets, and warmer on the, like in the Millennium Falcon and in those places, the sets are warmer. So then the lightsabers color contrast. I don't know. Has this been talked about before? I've never heard it.
I like it. This is a good theory. I dig it.
Wow.
And I also like that sometimes people just asked for a color lightsaber because they were a celebrity, and you're like whatever. This all means nothing.
So I am now, let's see, real quick for this Strings Bad layer, and then I'm going to jump over and see what you're doing. I'm going to real quick drop, after this Unmult, I'm going to drop a Scatterize. Why Scatterize and not Scatter? Honest truth, I couldn't tell you. This is what I just went to and did. Hashi, what's the difference between Scatterize and Scatter?
Scatter is just like a very simple pixel-based one. Scatterize has a few more options.
Scatterize has like twists and such built into it.
Yeah, I
So
think
really-
Scatterize might actually be a mini 3D system, and
Actually-
Scatter is purely a 2D like fractal separation of pixels.
You know what? I'm just going to go with scatter instead of scatterize because I don't need this stuff. So I'm going to set it to like 6. So it just makes it a little more, janky looking. So that's 0 and that's 6. So now it's messed up a bit. I'm going to apply a fast box blur at, let's say, something small, like 1 even. That might even be too much. Maybe 0.5. Still feels like too much. And then I'm doing a vector blur because it's 2012.
Hey, I'm gonna vector blur it up over here shortly as well.
That makes me
Now,
feel
Joel in the chat had a question about what is your plan for any kind of interactive lighting on you or the set? I
That's a great
noticed you
question.
did not set up a well-timed flash bulb scenario.
I should have. No, what I really, honestly, it's talking as a director and mainly maybe as a VFX soup here. What I would have recommended would be some interactive lighting externally apart from the actors, but I also would have given the actors some glowing rings or LED, like something they can hold in their hand, so you would get the glow from their hands on their faces and on their body. And ideally, there would be like a light either in between them that was, hitting them either from above, or you could even put, on a C-stand in between them, like an LED panel if you have the room, excuse me, for that. I didn't do that. As I said, I did this 15 minutes before a meeting. So I would have to, there's a couple things I could do. I could go in and the truth is I may not have time to do that today.
That's extra.
Yeah, it's extra. And if and when I did do it, I could do a couple things. I could use a really quick and dirty way would be to use my Roto that I have. So I could take strings bad, and let's just take it down here and actually here, I'll duplicate it. I'm going to call this, light. No, I don't need to call anything. I'm doing this just as an experiment. I'm going to apply a set matte filter to it, a Seth matte, literally a Seth matte. I'm going to use my Roto bad as a Seth matte. So now it's only showing up on my face and on my hands right here. And then maybe I'll just crank that fast box blur up and recolor this to be white so it's a little stronger and brighter. And then I can drop a levels effect on here, set it to alpha, and turn this up here. So now I've got big old light on me. Let's maybe turn that blur up even more. And let's actually put that all above the set matte. So now I have more light on me, if this is making any sense whatsoever. Let's apply a tint to it. Tint the white levels to more of a blue. And maybe set that, as horrible as it is, to add mode, so it's brightening up my face. So there's some interactive light now that's on my face. That's like a dirty, gross way to go about doing this.
Nice.
Really what I would want to do is draw masks that fit the contours of my face and my hands and such, and spend, days and days doing that. But I'm not going to do that. Nope.
Yes.
The moral of the story is doing it practically on set will save you days and days and days of work doing it in post.
You may have less control in post, but you will
tip.
have higher quality, stuff shot in the end. Hashi, how you doing?
And I'm doing well. So look at this. I found just a little sky card on PX here. A very, very HDR looking, we're kind of in the, more in the Snyderverse now. And the lighting on me is kind of wild. It's mildly directional, and I clearly have this it's dark.
No one
down
knows
here
who
or whatever,
cares.
but it works, you know.
I would like a character
it's
in the
there.
film to say you're in the Snyderverse now to another character, but right before, killing them in some horrific graphic way that is inappropriate for the genre.
I love that. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to care about color or compositing right now. I just want to get into the animation of this. I want to be able to put in my ring. I want to have a little moment here, and then I'll worry about color later because it's my weak spot anyway. I can admit that. But I'm going to import that ring that we just made, the Cinema 4D file, and I'm going to use Video Copilot's element because I just have the best quick control in here. So here's my ring model with the lovely mailbox logo. And in Element, one of the first things I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the environment, and then I'm going to load from their files. I'll just look at some of the environments that we have available to us. So we've got some basic interesting environments that will just reflect in this ring. And I don't think you're going to distinctly see anything that's going on in my comp, to be honest, but I just want something that has a similar level of, exciting contrast and whatnot. So let's go with this roof one because it's got kind of clouds in it. And it won't look like anything has happened yet, but that's because these shaders aren't doing anything that have any reflectivity in them. Instead of making something custom, I'm just going to go into Pro Shaders 2 and hunt around and modify some things for this. So for the metal, for example, I kind of like this, maybe this metal gold dark. I'll throw that on there. And that's pretty fun. It is a little dark, to be honest. I guess it said that, it warned me. But I'll try turning up its, I don't know if the reflectivity is on this thing. Here we go. Let's turn up some reflectivity. And let's turn up the, let's see, what does this have on it? Oh, I'm on the wrong thing. Here we go. All right. In my metal texture, I'm going to try messing with the color a little bit. I'm going to see if I turn up the diffuse color, if I can make it a little bit brighter. Because I think that these are a little bit brighter. They're not super saturated, but they're brighter.
Yeah.
And then I'm
Part
going
of
to
that's
jump
the
to
color
my...
grade, though. I never know how much to fashion the
true.
model and the textures.
Like my instinct was,
pre-comp.
yeah, that they're goldish, but let's see, how about, yeah, here, let's try this bronze kind of color for this inner area. And actually look at this, just these two textures already look a lot like they could be working together. And then for this middle one, let's go to translucent. This is my go-to whenever I'm creating water or a glowing object in Element. I use blue glass, and this shader, I'll clear out my other shaders, just has a little bit of a bump map on it. And if I dive down to one of the properties of its material, I can say illumination. Where is that? Illumination. Let's just turn up the intensity on that. And we'll make the color of this, it's kind of a, what would you say? It's a bluish cyan kind of thing, like leans green.
Always, without even looking at the reference, I can just assume it's a bluish cyan.
So this blue glass has illumination turned up high right here. So now, just to review, I've loaded in my model and replaced the three textures with textures that are available in Element, and I've changed the environment map to something. And now I'm going to say okay, and you'll barely be able to see anything, but that's because this ring is right on edge like this. So let me go down to group 1, which is what Element, if you've never used it, organizes all of your 3D objects into different groups. So when I was here in my scene setup, you'll see I had a group folder, group 1, like this. And in fact, you can go up to 5 within this interface, or you can also combine multiple element instances together in the same space. What I'm going to do is I'm going to duplicate this group a bunch, actually, because there are 5 of them, and I actually want separate animation on them. There are ways you can use a 3D object particle cloner within Element, but I'm less familiar with that. So I'm just going to create a group for every single one. And then out here in my After Effects window, I will say create a null for group 5, for group 4, for group 3, 2, and 1, etc. And you'll notice that what that's done is it's made these 1, 2, 3, 4. What did I miss? Group 1. A null for each of these. So I can just leave them named that. Actually, I want to rename them. Ring 1. This will be exciting. Ring 2. Naming is so important for me because once I start getting in over my head on something like that, I need to be able to quickly jump back in and figure out what the heck I was doing. So I've put all these rings attached to their own 3D null. Now, what's cool about the 3D null is that you can just take the 3D null and look at this. We've got a lovely, like pretty decent looking version of these rings. So that's exciting. But I also want to sort of interconnect them in a way that they sort of work together. Because it makes the most sense to me, I'm going to use ring 1 as the bottommost ring, and then kind of go ring 1, ring 2, ring 3. Whoops. Ring 3 is in the middle, ring 4 is a little bit above, and ring 5 is a little bit above here. So I've just slightly separated these nulls like that. And now I'd like to also be able to have them all sort of connected to each other upwind. So group 1, I want to be, see, how do I want to do this, Seth?
Well,
I want to be able to grab the whole group. So I'm going to create a new null in After Effects. I'm just going to call this
primary null.
Yeah, ring group. So I'll make this a 3D
Don't call
null.
it Lord of the Rings or anything like that. That would be silly.
1 ring to control.
All right, Michael, you're out of the
all.
corner. That was good. I liked that one. Welcome back. Welcome back, Michael.
Well done.
Glad to be here.
I'm going to add a camera to this comp. And let's see. I have no idea what size a iPhone lens is, but I'm going to turn down my zoom because I want an interesting bit of fall off here. So right now I have my ring group here, and I can rotate the whole group together.
iPhone
and
lens,
I can kind of
I believe.
find.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
If you know, let me know.
Well, in my tests before, it's usually been like it's around a 35 or 40 millimeter.
Mm-hmm.
If you're on the 1x lens, and if you're on a pro, or if you're on like 2x, it gets to be around a 50. But so I'd say 40 mil. But you're emulating, and no one cares here because you're emulating. You're in the Snyderverse, so it doesn't matter anymore.
True.
2, which yes, I know everyone, we're not really in the Snyderverse. This is a reference to a joke earlier. If you're just tuning in, I'm not an idiot. Also,
and if you're just tuning in, welcome to our Shang-Chi and the Legend of the Ten Rings episode.
Yes. Directed by Zack Snyder. So if it's a wide angle. The reference, if we're looking at it, which we are right now, that's like a 24 or 18 mil shot from the ground. So you're good. You're in a good place.
Ooh. Let's turn that low. Let's try that. Low. Okay, I'm actually going to go to the end of my comp and just key out.
Smart.
Look at this. So
this looks so good already.
I can sort of place these evenly in a way. So it would actually be really cool. Look, let's do this.
I have a question for you.
What's your question, Seth?
You may have answered already. Why didn't you just do this as in Element as one group, like as the same particle, in one replicator?
Like now that is something you could do. So let me show everyone real quick. If I can turn off all the layers except for group 1, and then within group 1, I could go to particle look, and then say I would actually like, particle replicator, I mean.
Yeah.
And then I would say I want 5 rings, and I want them, actually, never mind. I want a 3D grid that is 1 wide, 1 deep, and 5 tall, and then have 5 rings. And then as
and then
I
you can scatter in the Y space,
then I
and
can
you
do
can
this.
add noise.
So what I don't like about this is that the noise isn't, if you add noise or wiggle to these objects now, it is not per object, it's per the space. So if they're animated, they fly through the fractal field of rotation.
Yeah.
And so you just get this, you get a little bit less control than you want. And it may just be my inexperience with doing this, because there are so many rotation options. So look, under the particle replicator, you can rotate.
There's random rotation.
So there's random rotation. Let's see. So under particle rotation, there is, look at all these angle. There's randomized
That's just
noise.
Andrew Kramer being like, well, also we need this, and also we need this, and also we need this, and he's right. But I love you, Andrew. I'm not making fun of you. You're very successful.
So you, like, I would naturally randomize their Y rotation, so they're not all rotated in the same way. And then I would probably, you could add a bit of this. So what happens if you're playing through this? That's not animating, right?
Right.
So this is so fun. I'm like, I just like looking at this. Can we just say that this is
do that's the
and in fact,
song.
What, there's no reason to not do this right now too, just for my own fun. I'm going to add optical glow on it. I'm going to extend, unmult it, and then I'm going to dial up the
highlights only, right?
Highlights. And I think that if you know what I can do? If I put it at 100, I think that Element is using the equivalent of like a 16-bit output. So if I go to its glow settings, under render settings, glow, enable glow, but I'm going to disable I'm going to turn its radius all the way down. There we go. So now these values are actually from the CG popping higher than white, because I think I'm still in 8-bit, but
I didn't even know that was a thing.
But that way I can use, in Optical Glow, I can set the highlights only to 100% or even just slightly higher than 100%. And I think that'll make me avoid getting highlight glints from the ring and just leave me with these glows, which I could now jump into.
Leave me with these glows.
Delightful colorization options. Let's see, I'll just go down a little more. Cyane, again, I'm really not focused on color here. I just want these to feel cool for the moment.
Now, you haven't tested, though, to see if the noise is going to do what you wanted to do, which would involve going up to that Y displace.
Mm-hmm. So right now they're on random, and if actually, let me see what happens if I move my ring group through space. Does that do anything?
Look.
Okay, they're staying measured together. That's kind of cool. Maybe I've just had bad experience with this. And this would actually.
Well,
totally
you're right
work
with the
fine.
noise. The noise would do that, but the random rotation, I think, is a particle specific thing.
So what I could do is, since I do have my ring group null here, I would arguably want that at the top here of all these rings. Oh, that's the other thing, is I would want these not to expand about the center. Is there a way I can do that? Because right now they're all expanding from the center point. I'd love them to expand from back here, or be able to offset it like that. So what could I do for that? I don't think we can offset
it, can we?
Position, let's see. All right, so the particle group's positions are all locked to this stuff. The replicator shape. All it means is more keyframes. But you know what? Let's try that. Let's just so everyone can see what the plan is, because I'm getting caught up in the details. We're in Element, and it's using just this group 1, just one copy of these rings. Ignore all this other stuff. It doesn't matter. But within this, I can take this grid of 3D objects and I can expand them. Like I can expand the Y scale like this. So I'll say that my final Y scale should look about like one of the rings I'm holding onto, and the other ring is far forward. So if I say a keyframe is the Y scale is around here, and that should be at the moment that I put my arm down, wherever that is. So great acting on this, Hashi. All right. So right around there, they expand all the way out. And then just a moment before here, they are all back up on my arm. So if I scale this down like that, I can pretend that they're, bracelet spaced, and I can keyframe the position of this. So let's position that up here. And let us know what you're up to, Seth, too, because I don't want to.
Oh, Hashi, the chat has
keep
suggested
everyone.
adjusting the original anchor point, and I would suggest rather than that, you could make another null and parent your group null to the other one, if you wanted to be able to make that a little easier.
You see what I like? If that's where the separate rings thing would work, and I'm worried about if I'm expanding the Y scale of something that's always going to move about its center, even if I change the anchor point of the parented,
It's still gonna
or control null, it's
still gonna move.
It's irrelevantly scaling like that. So even if I added
I
a
was
separate
thinking
null that was
scale,
on the
not
end,
scaling the positions. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So it's a little bit weird. So it's this is one of the things I get into with this thing here. But well, watch this anyway. This is going to be just as cool. How quick is this? Oh, 12 frames. That's way too slow. Oh man. Okay. So now imagine this, if you will. Wait, I should add some position and some orientation keyframes. So let's say it's there, and then here it'll be kind of rotated around. One of my least favorite things to do is tracking objects to characters.
That's the worst, because especially if you track the 3D scene as well,
oh gosh, yeah.
If you don't have software to do the math, which I'm sure exists out there somewhere,
Oops.
like how to make them. Oh, especially when you have a particle emitter, and you need the particles to exist in 3D space, but the emitter to be tracked to a 3D object within that space. I don't understand.
Always so fun.
Cinema 4D does have an object tracker in addition to a camera tracker, which does make some of that a lot easier than it used to be.
God, you know what?
And you can, if you object track when there's an existing camera track, is it conscious of that?
Yeah, Cinema 4D's object tracker works with its camera tracker to.
Oh my gosh,
I've got it. Yeah, it's great.
I've got to check out this
thing
Maxon.
Noseman has a tutorial series on Cineversity that I would recommend.
Oh,
if I know you're going to put that in the chat there or share it here, but who is it that has that training in the Cineversity? We do.
Maxon
No, but I didn't know if you mentioned the trainer.
Noseman, Thanasis.
Noseman's the best. You guys definitely check it out.
All right. Instead of elements motion blur, I'm going to add real smart motion blur to this because I can just use whatever tools I want. Let's see. I'm going to turn this down to like 0.2. Now, watch this, everyone. This is very relatively little animation work, but look what a cool idea we're getting already. So look at that.
Yeah, that's going to be cool.
Cha-ching. And this totally reminds me of my high school VFX reel.
Right that's here. Done. It's right for your high school VFX reel. Yeah.
And then I'll just wiggle the layer around like that.
Speaking of high school VFX, let's go back over here to my really gross looking comp.
What did we call them? Is it nephew VFX? Is that the official term now that Corridor is?
I think that's perfect because that's what this is going to look like for a long time is nephew VFX. I have these two new versions that strings bad big. So I've got strings bad, which I did my stuff on. I added Ecto at the end of it. Had the scatter,
Clever.
The fast blur, vector blur, and an Ecto, and then I have strings bad big, which has, I will just show you real quick what it has if I turn these things off. It has a Turbulent Displace, set to a size 24 and the amount is 216. And then I have a fast box blur set to 0.5, a vector blur set to 22. I could probably set it a little lower, but and then I have a second turbulent displace that the size is very small and the amount is turned up a whole lot, so it's a much more like squiggly. And then levels for alpha cracked up. Let me turn that vector blur back up to where I had it.
So that gives it a lot more of a chaotic shape than the Spider-Man web we were getting earlier.
Yeah, and
that's
so then
pretty
I
cool.
Duplicated it, and on the duplicate, I went to the first set of turbulent displace and changed in the evolution options, changed the random seed, turned it up so that it was going to be looking like a different squiggle, but it was all the same, like, settings everywhere else.
Gorgeous.
By the way, one thing I want to do with all my strings is I'm going to go through here, select them all, and set them all to screen blend mode, because that is going to blend them to my scene a lot better. On top of these strings bad big, I have one more strings bad. I need strings bad fat. And now what I'm going to do here is I'm going to duplicate my strings bad layer, bring it up here, call it strings bad fat. But I actually need to adjust a mask inside this pre-comp. And if I go do that, we all know it's going to affect all these other instances of that pre-comp in this comp. So I'm going to right click on it. And I don't know if you can see the right click. You guys can't. Golly. I'm going to go to reveal layer source in project. And it shows up right here. That's my strings. I'm going to duplicate it up here in my project window and call it strings bad fat. I'm going to double click on that and I'm going to go to just any one of the shape layers in here. Go to content. And I'm going to go to the stroke, and I'm going to turn up the stroke width to where it's super fat. And I'm going to change line cap from butt cap to round cap. And now nothing got affected in my main comp. What I'm going to do is I select strings bad fat. I'm going to drag my actual strings bad fat comp down, holding the Alt key, and drop it onto strings bad fat down here, and now it's replaced just that comp with those settings. And I'm going to select my scatter all the way to Ecto, all those settings, and leave my gradient ramp and my universe unmult. And I am going to apply a fast box blur. Real quick, I'm going to do a little fancy nonsense. Fast box blur. Set it to 55. And I'm going to drop Electrify, Universe Electrify onto here.
Ooh, it's made it.
And it's not doing anything yet, and that's because I want to go down and set it to fractal noise. And now it adds these really cool, if I isolate it, it looks like this. And I'm pretty sure I want to go into the distortion settings. No, where is it? It's the fractal noise settings. I'm going to change the scroll, the X scroll,
Beautiful.
to something like 20. Now it's maybe 50. So then it's like scrolling toward the middle as it moves. And I'm going to change the source opacity down to 0, so I'm only seeing the Electrify effects.
Good way to solo that.
So now those are on top of that business as well. Again, this still looks like Nephew VFX 100%.
I feel like the wide Harry Potter. I mean, did you do our original Harry Potter particle fight?
FTX? No, that was Cameron Childs made that film team experiment.
Cameron Childs.
Lovely one.
Like, I think that there's something about that magic duel that just has a whenever your magic effects are basically smoke and light and screen additive blending kind of stuff, it's really hard to avoid this realm.
Yes, it is.
Marvel overcomes it really nicely by having multi-million-dollar sets, Unreal Engine behind characters reacting to the light and stuff.
By the way, I'm now just dropping crap on here to make it look crazy. So what I did was I dropped on top of Electrify, I dropped a Turbulent Displace with the amount really high and the size really low to create, ripply weirdness, and then Vector Blur to make it a little more magical looking. And that actually looks really cool, and I think looks really close to the reference. Obviously, it's very saturated, and all this needs to be turned down a bit. But if I turn my strings good back on, this is currently how our magic is looking. And again, yes, very Nephew VFX. So what I'm going to do, I've got a couple things I've got to add to this, and it's 126. Are we hoping to go to 2 today?
How are we feeling? Let's go to 2, everyone. Then we can
Central,
get some
I'm in
exciting.
Central, so that would be 12 for West Coast. Hashi, how you doing? Let's come back over to you.
All right. So what I've done here is I have added a few more keyframes. Nothing fancy, but just instead of the Y scale just going from one to the other, I've added some a little bit of an elastic fall off here. So hopefully, I haven't played it back yet, but it should look something like that. There we go. I've added some random rotation in there. I'm getting some weird results. Let me see. Zhooing. Okay, so that's where it messes with things. I'm adding the I'm evolving the rotation noise evolution. And now I've got to figure out what the noise scale means. Does noise scale, if I increase it, mean the fractal pattern is bigger, or does it mean it's repeated more times? Let's turn up the noise scale higher and play it through and see if the randomness is any smoother. I mean, what's kind of neat is that the actual animation of these in the show is kind of rattly, but I'm getting too much here. Let's see. And my noise evolution is not that fast, I don't think. So I think it's that it's moving through the field too much.
Yeah, that's
so,
where you're hitting that. So can you, I guess if you keyframe the rotation, random rotation, it's not going to look natural, is it?
No, because then it does them all at the same time a bit.
Are you keyframing the noise to crank up when it stops?
No, right now I have the amount staying consistent, but the evolution changing over time. So let me reveal my keyframes here. Oh, I must have added an expression of, what did I do? Time times 40. Let me see if it were time times 4, let me see if the rattling is any slower. If it's slower, then this will help. If it's not, then it's the scale of the fractal field. And when I say all that, it basically what's happening is that there is a 3D fractal field. And yeah, you're right, Jason, that middle one isn't moving at all. So what I believe is happening is that there is a 3D fractal field in here, just of math, basically. Values between 0 and 1. And right now I've turned the scale up a lot and it looks way more rattly to me than it did before. So I'm going to turn the noise scale down to 0.2 and see if that means that spatially it has to travel further to be displaced or have a randomized angle. Let's see. Oh, and my key is not holding up exactly either. All right, so let's play this real quick. We could key the animation all day long and it would take forever. Yeah, that rotation noise field is just giving this cartoony thing, and that middle ring is just staying locked there. So I'm going to kill the rotation noise. Now, it's funny because one of these things must do what I'm trying to do. And I'm just missing it. So if I don't have that rotation on, what if I just spin the whole object about its y-axis once it's down?
Have you messed with the options under the multi-object settings down there?
What those do is they will split these rings into all of their components. So if I go to multi-object and I enable it, let's see right here. I don't know if I have any randomness on here. Oops, where'd my checkbox go? So if I go to like rotation random or displace them, oops, I'm actually breaking apart the rings. It's a really fun thing to animate if you want to, if you have like a model of a car or something and you want to do a cool explosion or something like that. But for right now, I'm just going to turn my noise amount down to 0. I'm going to stick with this kind of random rotation that's happening on these rings already. And I'm just going to add a keyframe to my ring group right here. Not on the orientation, but on the actual Y rotation here. So as soon as this comes down like that, I'll just keyframe these to kind of rotate like that. And that'll give me a bit of a wobble. And now I don't want to waste too much time on the animation. I can perfect the animation with time, but also I know that we don't have a ton of it here together. So I'm going to stick with this as our animation, a little bit of a springy rollout of these. Might be too much springiness. All right. And right now, the next issue I have is they're up here with, and supposed to be on my wrist at the beginning of this, and then come down. And obviously, they're just in front of it. There's nothing to occlude them. So there are a couple ways that I can tackle this. And the way that I've chosen to, something I did while you were not looking, Seth, was in here. I created a new group 2 and just added these 2 capsule shapes to it, very simply like that. I'm going to say OK. And then for, I believe we already have a group 2 null right here, right? Oh, and it's actually parented to the ring group right now. So I'm going to unparent it from the ring group, and I'm going to go to element settings for ground 2 or group 2 and turn it on.
Why did you not call that the Fellowship of the Ring?
I'm above that kind of stuff.
That's what I thought. See, I am too. I was testing you to see if you were like Michael.
All right. So luckily, because this
It's not
was
fair
attached
for me
to
to
my
say
ring
that about
group,
talk bad about Michael when he's not on screen. I'm sorry, I won't do
Yes.
that anymore.
All right. So now you see we've got this a 3D object up here that is actually sort of in the right space. So I'm going to add some keyframes and rotation to this thing. Namely, I'm going to be trying to move it in roughly in alignment with my arm and fist here. So if I have it at about this angle, maybe, let's see. It's a very weird looking thing. And in fact, my arm from all this foreshortening is not that skinny. Face the facts. I could probably just use a cylinder for this. I'm going to get rid of the object that I thought would have worked for my fist, and I'm going to animate this tic-tac shape right here. Let's scale it up a little bit. And so now it's a little bit hard to see, but all of the rings are reacting to the presence of this object with their lighting. And I haven't enabled the ambient occlusion yet, but that's usually one of the tricks that right out of the bag gets element looking really good.
Yeah.
There's almost this fake ambient occlusion because this surface is a darker color.
Darker colors.
Darker
Sorry.
colors.
Not even a reference. That wasn't even like a pun. It was just you said a word and a title, and I said the title of the film. Sorry, continue.
Word association, everybody. Just for the heck of it, in the middle of this process, I'm going to add a light. I'm going to move it over here. I'm going to move it far back into the distance here somewhere. And then I'm going to press A to reveal its anchor or its point of interest controls and bring them forward. So it's kind of shining at them a little bit more like my lights were in my room. And let's turn up the intensity of that a bit. There we go. And now we're getting the same way the light is sort of hitting me from this side. It would mean that there's a lit edge of these back here. Let's try to push this whole light back in space so it hits some more of these. it's really funny to try to light reflective objects because it's really more about what one environment is reflecting in them as opposed to their own light cues. But Element has a fun solution for that too, which is a little bit more artistic and less physical based, which is just to go to the lighting settings in here, and under additional lighting, I can say add some dramatic lighting, and it'll add all these little extra bits of light that you can then kind of rotate around until they're giving you something that makes sense in the environment. Meaning they would, in this case, I would want them to be dark in the front and kind of a little bit more backlit or something. Anyway, you get it. Those are rings. And back here is this pill that's glowing. So with the pill that I got glowing up here, we'll go to its position and rotation keyframes. It looks like it was in a good position around here. And I'm going to leave this glowing object visible for right now. But what I can do later is I can just make it basically an object occluder. So let's put that right there. And let's just step through some frames broadly, putting this in place. So let's see. So the arm rotates back like this. And we'll pretend these rings would have been sort of around my wrist like that. So just imagine that anywhere this new object that I'm placing is where the rings won't render and they'll look like they're disappearing behind something. And also a reminder that in the trailer, they just clip through his hand. So
straight through.
I'm gonna do at least trailer level work.
This is so smart, though.
The chat commented that it's more like phasing through the hand as part of their magical properties.
No, it's not. When it
not.
When it shows up in the final film and it doesn't do that, you guys are going to know that we were right.
You'll owe me a Coke.
We've been right about everything else so far in this episode.
Everything. Including all of our pronunciations of everything.
Why don't you trust us? Pronunciations, like the way we pronounced Eternals. Man, I mean...
Mm-hmm.
Real quick, I did a whole lot while you were gone, so I want to catch people up real quick.
Catch us up.
Your shot's looking way cooler. So I made some lightning, and the lightning...
What? You can't just...
Well, it's okay, so it's advanced lightning, which done. Looks so good, right? And then I added a tint and a matte choker straight out of the box because the lightning in the reference, it looks crazy. It's like... let me cycle through here. It's so cool because it's like this weird...
It is really wild. It's
magical lightning that comes out and it's not like... It looks like it's ripping a hole in time almost. Like, and so you were the one who
they really did make a cool lightning effect. Like they were like, we're going to make something better than anyone's made before lightning wise.
Well, thinking about it, it's like, they're like, we've done so much magic stuff in these Marvel things. Like we need to do like something unique and original so Seth can do a bad version of it. And that's what I'm doing here. And if I turn up this matte choker, you'll see I lose even more bits and pieces of the lightning. So the lightning is only giving us like, bits and pieces of itself. So that's flying around the place. I also added some stock footage from our good friends at Footage Crate, our production crate, which, give you an example, they have a whole lot of dust elements and such that you can go in and grab. I'm using... what am I using? I am using some ground falling dust, ground dust hit. So I've got this ground falling dust that's happening from the ceiling. I've got this ground dust hit that's happening when the lightning strikes it the first time. And then this dust plastic cam that's happening when the lightning happens the second time. I've added a tint filter to each of these to make their white values slightly match more of the color of what dust would be in my garage, which is a gross brown color.
You have a lot of reference for that.
And the last thing I need is before I do Supercomp, last couple things, like I need to Supercomp all of this. I will also need a flare that I'll have to do before Supercomp. But I'm going to hold off on that because No Light Factory it can add, it's a little bit of extra of a workhorse on things, and I like to wait until I've done other stuff before adding it. But then I'll need Supercomp, and I'll also need to add a shake with Universe Camera Shake, which I'll do in an adjustment layer on top of everything. So I'm going to switch back over to you while I do my Supercomp and come back when this looks a little bit better. Is that cool?
Absolutely. Now I am
really so
happy with this. So I have placed just a few keyframes for that arm stand-in thing. And in Element, I jumped in, and originally, let's see, for this one right here was the texture on it. Now you'll recall it looked like this before, the little tic tac, but under the advanced material options, if you go all the way to the bottom, there's this matte shadow checkbox, and I can just say matte shadow, and then say okay, and now it renders that as a clear thing. So like it looks like a piercing here a little bit. I'm aware of that, but I could scale up the object, and look at this. Just wherever I scale it, if I move it around, move it forward a bit, it's this invisible object that is occluding those rings. And if I were to start the shot, say here, and just say, oh, you know what? Let me add a keyframe to the clouds. Why not? Move them from here to, and they're going to move like that. Wait, no, they're going to move this way because it's blowing in my face, maybe. You should always do it and then reduce it to like half of what you thought. Because also this moves the sun with it. All right, here we go. Let's play. Just move my arm down like that. And look at that. Like it really, I mean, again, this animation is janky. This is animation you could spend a lot of time on, but the idea of it, of an animated occlusion object in there makes it so, there are a couple bad frames, but I, again, argue this is at least as good as what they got going on in the trailer.
And this looks exactly like the trailer already right now. Send it.
And you know what would make this look even more like the trailer? Watch this. I'm going to create a new layer, a black solid that I'm going to call mirror. And guess what I'm going to put on here, everybody? I'm going to add mirror 3. And mirror 3, a lot of the time the sheet that it comes in with doesn't feel as useful. But what's great about it is that it also looks a little bit like wrinkly electricity. And when I look at the reference here with the Wingdings subtitles, it comes down, it has this really cool impactful hit with kind of a, I would say chromatic displacement kind of look. Some of that lightning that you have too, Seth. And then this general cloud of electricity, but it's sort of a flowing energy field. It's not exactly crackly. I mean, somewhat is. But let's go over here and let me see. I know I've got such different colors in mine, but we'll just get the idea across. So under the geometry settings, I can turn this into kind of a sheet. I'll tell it to be XYZ individual controls. So I can say that the Y value is a little bit longer and that maybe I'm going to rotate this in space a little bit. So let's see. I'm going to say create null under my 3D model settings. And I believe that if I do that, now I can take my fractal field and look at this, just rotate it around like this. So it actually does have some camera perspective. Oops. A little wild on the controls there. There we go. So let's expand the X size a little bit. And this is very polygonal looking right now. But if I go down to the number of vertices and crank this up, then there's more fidelity and more things to be affected by the default fractal that's on here. So you kind of see what's happening. If I come down to my material properties, this is the density fill right here. where you can sort of see that it's where they overlap, it's brighter. So I can change this color to something like a darker bluey kind of color. And that way the highlights are blue tinted, but the others kind of fall off. So maybe something like this to start with. Let me change the blending mode of this layer to screen. And now you can see it looks a little bit more like electricity flowing through the air. And let's see how big our fractal size is right now. Right now, the amplitude is 50. I can turn that down a little bit, so I'm just getting more pinches and pulls that look like electricity. And again, what's wild about these is that they are really 3D. So they are, they have some distance fall off and things like that. And what would I do next? I would probably dial down some of the material settings to try to have it fall off in the darker areas a little bit more. So what should I do for that? If I turn down the opacity here, oh, that's linked to my null opacity. That's weird. I didn't know that happened. I'm going to unlink that. I don't like it over there. All right, I'll turn down the opacity a little bit, so it's subtle, or I say subtle, but it's very light in here, the fractal field thing that's going on. So I'll do this, and I'm going to animate the fractal field by going into the mirror fractal settings, and let's have it, first of all, let's have it scroll in the Y direction. Let's see, downward, yeah. So I'll add an expression that's something like time times, let's start with maybe 100. I don't know how fast it's really going. And Seth, feel free to interrupt me anytime, but I'm happy to keep going.
Yeah, no, keep, I might have something to show in a second. I'm just, so.
Love it.
Well, yeah, I'll show it. Here we go. So I've been doing some Supercomp work. I'm also trying to create, that lightning looks really cheeseball to me, and I'm trying to get it, I think part of it might be that it doesn't have any contact reflection in the ground, and so I'm trying to create something with reflection from VFX Suite as a cheat, so rather than having to draw solids and do a bunch of stuff, but I don't know if it's going to work.
It was kind of you to go with the effect that has like 400 components to it, as opposed to, like, I had the rings, and like I know that's like 3D and animation, but it was just placing those things and throwing optical glow. It's all the effects work I've been doing over here so far, which is kind of nice. I'll turn up the, oh, we're on you, yes.
Oh yeah, sorry, let me switch back over to you.
All right, so I've added a time expression to the evolution. I'm actually going to turn it down based on my last preview. And let me play this through again. So now it's just a somewhat 3D fractal field that is flowing downward a bit. Actually, I could maybe have it flow down about 3 times that fast, and let's see what that looks like. All right, so that sort of surrounds them with a bit of this. And I could use a set of lights in here to try to spotlight just the fractal noise happening in the middle of this, but I actually would like to just, whoops, what am I doing? Scale up that a little bit so you can see more of the crackles here, and there's kind of liquidy now, actually. Turn up the evolution higher now that it's bigger. Whoopsie, I moved my mirror layer. I'll recenter it, Control-Alt-F. And for simplicity's sake, I'm just going to add a new solid here. And on this solid, I'm going to say, we'll draw a little feathered mask right here. That's so much easier than anything else we could do here. Let's feather that mask out like this. And then because I intend to use Supercomp in a moment, I'm going to call this the electric mask. And then I'm going to hide it And then
Electric
on mirror, I'm going to say set matte. I'm always going to think Seth matte now. I can't not.
Because it's a Seth matte.
And we'll
That's not a
select
song.
electric mask and click on the masks. And look at that. So now we have just electricity in this one little spot like that. I can animate this electricity to kind of fly in, I think, by going set a position that sort of goes along with the rings here. So they land here and are totally visible, and they go up and are all the way gone here. So let's zoom that into the background as if they're kind of just disappearing. Cool. Now they're going to do this. They're going to go zoom. So that's
smart.
it's a little cheesy. It's just sliding over top, but you get the gist of this. And what's kind of cool about mirror is that I could have a repeater within here too. I could say that I actually want 3 instances of this plane, and I want them separated in let's see, in Z space. So look at that. It's kind of weird or trippy. But what it's doing is it's creating multiple copies that go back in Z space. And I actually am going to create multiple copies that come forward in Z space. And then I'm going to rotate this whole thing slowly while this is all happening. The Y-axis again. So we'll set a keyframe there for Y-axis, and then we'll set one here. I'm just going to like roll this a little bit around. Like, I'm not going to go all the way from one to the other, but it'll solidify that it's not a 2D effect, that it's actually 3D. And now obviously we're getting too much electricity, so I'm going to have to bring it down a little bit. So I can turn the play with the amplitude, play with some of the fractal settings until I get something that I like. Let's see what happens if I spiral or bend some of these so it's not linear at all. Yeah. Okay. And on their lights, let's see, their shaders, density, their blend mode is, if it were normal, what would that look like? Oh, that's very dark. All right. Now I'm wandering, Seth, in case you have something interesting.
Let me see if I do.
If you don't, I'm happy to still play some jazz over here. But
I think I've got something fun I can show. So like this looks a little bit, this is obviously not preferred. The studio wouldn't like this version because it covers up one of the stars' faces.
oh,
Both of them. I just realized. I do think in this string comp, string's bad is too visible. I need to actually turn up that vector blur or even the scatter a little bit so that it's a little less of an, yeah, turn that scatter up. That looks cool. Yeah,
ooh.
that's cooler.
It's amazing how much control you can have over these like abstract artish things. I mean, I say control while as you struggle through it, maybe, but
I am struggling through it, but I've got so much stuff cranked up to 11 here that I'm not even sure it's looking good necessarily, but it does feel. One thing to remember also is that one thing that makes this look like Nephew VFX is my plate. I shot this like no mood lighting whatsoever in my garage, like locked off, which I always like say, like, if your style, like the one thing that makes the reference so freaking good is that this shot is moving. It's doing this very slow track. Well, not slow track. I'm sorry. It's a fast track and it's handheld. It's like, got this camera shake to it, which I'm going to add, but it's
yeah. And it's really funny because like camera shake on top of, whatchamacallit, yeah, on top of a handheld also like has now become an
Yeah.
additional level of nephew effects.
Well, I'm about to apply the crap out of that over here. But this is what I've got going with Supercomp. I've got stuff. I've got a displacement layer that I've created from my strings that I don't love. Actually, it looks quite terrible. So I might just get rid of that.
But I feel like we're getting so much closer to these. We are at about 11:56 here, or 4 minutes left, I should say. I don't know where you live. But
That's we're just looking at the reference at the moment, by the way.
Oh, we are, aren't we? Thank you. Sorry. This is me. This is where I'm at right now. It looks okay. It's not terrible. It's not great.
slap some mojo on top of that. And then,
Oh gosh. Well, you know what? You're right. We talked about
maybe
how
not,
we should do it.
or surf through looks, and you might actually find yourself in an interesting place.
I don't know. Not on top of this plate. A part of me feels like I need to just like stick to how the plate looks and just commit to how the thing. Now, I do have. I did try this already before, and I didn't get to the Supercomp. I never got to like a Supercomp place with it, but I have a render of this somewhere I can pull up in a second. Let's switch over. Wait, real quick. Now you got me on Mojo. I want to kind of find something that.
I'm the master of derailing.
The master of derailing. Ah. Yeah, you can make this look real gross real quick. I mean, VFX and gross. That's why we call this show that. It's what
Exactly.
it's called. All right, let me switch back over to you now that I have figured out that I don't know what to do with mine.
Sounds good. So I'm going to do, so right now I'm doing what any nephew would do, which is load up some Video Copilot shockwaves and see what they might look like for this. Let's see, I've got this shockwave right here that I'm going to grab, and I'm going to say set matte. I'm going to use its own luminance to cut it out like that. And I'm going to make it a 3D object. And I'm going to say, don't react to the lights. And then I'm going to rotate it kind of to this angle, and I'm going to scale it up like that big. And then let's see, I don't remember how fast these burst out in their native animation. So natively it goes like this. It's a beautiful slow bloom. So what I wanted to do is I'm going to Control-Alt-T enable the time remapping, because I want it to be faster, and also I want it to start very fast and then slow into that speed. So I'm going to shape its speed curve like this. Whoops, I've done too much. There we go. So what this ought to do is this should make it so if I solo the shockwave, you just get a very quick bloom at the beginning, because it's zooming through that stuff, and then it gets to this other end. And in fact, I could probably, now I can just time it with when that ring lands, right? There's the height of my thing. Now in the movie, they cleverly have all the rings in frame. Mine kind of overshoots it, but here are the janky effects that I've combined into this moment. Let's see here. Boom. Oh, too late. A little earlier. Yomp. Okay. So that's the gist of what I wanted to do. But now what I'm going to do is I'm going to pre-comp this 3D layer, because it's actually the only truly 3D card style layer that's being rendered in here. I'm going to move all these things over like that and pre-comp them, and then I'm going to press the collapse transformation button like that. So now it's effectively a 2D layer that has all those same properties. And now we're going to save this, and we're going to grab up all of our layers that are relevant. which is actually only this shockwave, mirror, element. Let me just rename that. And the sky and me. So we'll grab these and I'll say right click. Then we'll go to effects, RG VFX Supercomp. And let me see how much we can do in a very short amount of time in here. So already it looks a little bit different because Supercomp is blending it in a higher, even though this project is actually 8-bit, it's trying to blend everything together in, is it 32, Seth? Or does someone know? You get the type
Supercomp works in true 32-bit float, yes.
Amazing. So for the shockwave layer, I'm going to turn this into a displacement layer. And let me see what we've got here. So if I go to a frame where you can see it exploding like this, what it's turned into is it's using the chromatic displacement engine to make this wild splash looking shape. It's almost like water or something like that. Now you can dial up the spread in here. Oh, oops, no, that's the chromatic spread. Let me see.
Right below soften.
Yeah.
It's above.
So, oh, did I do spread chroma? What am I doing now? See, I don't like that. Let me turn up the soften. There we go. I'll just dial up the soften a bunch. And then I'll get sort of more of a big ol' wave like that. And in fact, if I go to my shockwave layer here, down below the Supercomp thing, and I add something like a radial fast blur, maybe, I can center that. You know what? I'll center it over here. And then, well, actually, I'll center it way down here at the tail end of where it goes. And I'm going to, let me show you what it looks like. Here's my thing, and I'm going to hit it with some radial fast blur. So look at that. It's kind of a wild Northern Lights kind of thing happening. And now with that extra information, when I go back into Supercomp, the displacement map is going to be this kind of wilder, big
God, that looks so
shape. So look at that. Here we go. So we have this sort of like trail coming off of it. I'm going to turn up the amount. Yeah, there we go.
Golly, that's cool.
So look at this. Like, there's so many things start to happen once you move this stuff into Supercomp. Like, I don't even remember what the effect looks like, but this is neat looking to me. And if I go to my mirror settings, I'll switch this layer type to additive also. Oh, it is. It came in just like that. I'm going to look at some presets. Let's see if this had a, what does blue streak look like on it? That's a lot, but I want a subtle glow, I guess. Screen-like.
Well, yours looks awesome. This is I found my render from yesterday. It's a GIF of the render, but it has a camera shake applied to it. It is a lot of camera stuff, and I forgot yesterday when I tried this out, I added the rings as well. Forgot to show that this time. Those are just masks. They actually look more like donuts. So this is, Seth Worley and the Legend of the 10 Donuts.
That's delightful.
But it doesn't look great. But what helps, the camera shake does help it a lot. This also is without Supercomp. So hopefully, ideally, if I were to add a Supercomp, do a Supercomp version, it would, look better. So that's it in motion. And also, like,
that's really cool.
Just to remind everybody, this is where I was getting with Supercomp today, without a flare and without the donuts and without the camera shake. I can't really hit play because it's going to, all the elements I have here make it hard to whatever. But so we're running out of time, Hashi. I think you won. It's not a competition, but if it were, you would win because yours looks so freaking good.
Oh, that is sweet of you, man. Yeah, this was a lot of fun. So, like, the things that I would do beyond this point would be to use Element to create a world position render. And what that is it's like a depth render in a way. But let me see, I could even show you a preview of what it would look like. A world position is sort of like a depth mat, but you can also rotate it around and stuff like that. So it's not strictly a. Let me see if I can.
It's not strictly in Z space. You're literally creating like a track mat based on a 3D plane.
Mm-hmm. So I would do that for these rings, so I could have the leading edge of them kind of visible, but the back edge of them would be disappearing into the to that craziness. So like if I did that, for example, I can let me turn. Oh, I'll preview real quick. I don't know why I'm doing the thing that I said I wasn't doing right now, but I would go to element here, and then I could use it as a set matte effect. I could grab the second instance of it and effects and masks and the luminance value. And then that would allow me to have these rings above mirror in some way. I didn't position it correctly, but you can see that it's putting like this foreground ring in front of mirror.
Yeah.
It's actually bizarrely trying to put the bottom of these rings in front of it, but you could blend them in atmospherically throughout this, utilizing that. But what did we learn, Seth? We started out with, we knew what we were going to try today, which was fun. So knowing is half the battle. And it was kind of nice because we learned to pronounce, Shang-Chi, maybe.
Well, I mean, 2 YouTube videos said Shang-Chi and 1 said Shang-Chi, and we both said Shang-Chi, so we're going with that for now.
Perfect.
We'll be corrected by everyone else. But we learned how to use Wingdings for fantasy greebles, which I think is my favorite part of today. We learned how to create nulls from paths with the path to null script for better control over paths in After Effects. We learned the turbulence displace for cool physics, Roto Bezier for smoother paths, applying material to polygon selection tags in one quick step, expressions to make a gradient follow the paths, Unmult to isolate. I'm not going to read this whole thing. You guys can read it in the description. We learned a whole lot of things. We played with Electrify. We used Trapcode Mirror for magical electricity, and VFX Reflect for contact light. The point is, guys, we did a lot of things today. We did 2 major effects, and they came out okay. Yours came out friggin' great.
They're passable. I think both are. I think your experiment was great. You have a completely workable shot.
Yeah, totally. But we learned today, I think rather importantly also, that how important it is to get a good plate, to get a very dynamic and interesting looking plate, and do your contact lighting on set if possible. Do as much as you can on set. If you can bring someone with the power to wield 10 rings and create magical properties and things on the day, you do that, even if it costs extra, even if they're not union. Thank you for our weird dad jokes. Thank you for coming to listen to our weird dad jokes today. And today we'll see you next week on VFX and Chill. Don't forget to grab your VFX and Chill mugs from the store. Mine's getting keyed out weirdly.
Cheers.
See ya. Poop.
See ya.